What if I told you that $500,000 is standing right beside you at this very moment, waiting for you to speak its name? What if I told you that money is not an object, not a concept, not an energy, but a living presence that responds when addressed correctly? You have been taught to chase money, to work for it, to beg the universe for it, but no one ever told you the truth. Money does not need to be chased. Money needs to be commanded, and it can only be commanded when you understand what it truly is. For decades, you have been speaking about money. You have affirmed abundance. You have visualized wealth. You have repeated every manifestation technique the teachers gave you, and still, the money does not come. Or it comes in small amounts, in temporary bursts, never staying, never multiplying the way you were promised. Do you know why? Because you have been speaking to the wrong thing. You have been calling out to the universe, to God, to your subconscious mind, but money itself has been standing right there, listening, waiting, and you never once spoke directly to it. This is not metaphor. This is not spiritual poetry. This is law. And by the time we finish here today, you will understand how to speak to $500,000 as though it were a person standing in front of you. You will learn its name. You will learn its nature. You will learn how to command it, how to call it forth, how to make it obey you. Not through manipulation, not through desperation, but through the ancient practice of personification that has been hidden from the masses for centuries. But I warn you now, once you hear this truth, you cannot unhear it. Once you see how you have been relating to money incorrectly your entire life, you will never be able to go back to your old patterns. So if you are here by accident, if this message feels too strange, too confronting, leave now. But if something deeper brought you here, if your soul has been crying out for this exact teaching, then stay. Because what you are about to learn will shatter every lie you have ever been told about wealth. Before we go deeper, if you are hearing this truth for the first time, subscribe to this channel now, because what I am about to reveal is not taught in mainstream prosperity programs. This is ancient spiritual law, and those who understand it and practice it prosper. Subscribe now to stay aligned with this wisdom. Now, let me tell you about a woman who discovered this truth. I recall a woman who came to me years ago, exhausted from trying. She had done everything the prosperity teachers told her to do. Every morning for 3 years, she woke up and affirmed, "I am abundant. I am prosperous. Money flows to me easily." She visualized herself wealthy. She made vision boards. She wrote gratitude lists. She even wrote checks to herself from the universe, just like the books said to do. And after 3 years of faithful practice, she was still living paycheck to paycheck, still drowning in debt, still watching others prosper, while she remained stuck in the same financial prison. When she sat before me, broken and defeated, I asked her one question. "When you speak about money, who are you speaking to?" She looked at me confused. "I am speaking to the universe," she said. "I am speaking to God. I am affirming to myself, I am using the law of attraction." And that is when I told her the truth that would change everything. You have been praying to everyone except the one who needs to hear you. You have been calling out to the heavens while money itself has been standing beside you, invisible, unacknowledged, waiting for you to see it as what it truly is. You see, money is not merely energy. Money is not just a symbol or a frequency floating in the ethers. Money is a living intelligence. It is a conscious presence that operates according to spiritual laws far older than human civilization. The ancients understood this. In every great tradition, wealth was personified. The Romans had Fortuna. The Greeks had Plutus. The Hindus have Lakshmi. These were not primitive superstitions. These were profound spiritual recognitions of a truth that modern teachers have forgotten. Money is alive, and like every living thing, it responds to those who acknowledge its presence and speak to it directly. But somewhere along the way, this knowledge was lost. We were taught to think of money as a thing, an object to be earned, saved, managed. We were taught to relate to it mechanically, practically, without reverence, without relationship. And in doing so, we severed the very connection that allows money to flow. Because here is what you must understand. Money does not respond to need. Money does not respond to desperation. Money does not even respond to hard work. Money responds to recognition. Money responds to those who see it for what it is and address it accordingly. Think about this. When you want something from another person, how do you approach them? You do not stand across the room and shout into the air, hoping they hear you. You do not close your eyes and visualize them giving you what you want. You walk up to them. You look them in the eye. You speak their name. You make a request or you give a command, depending on your relationship with them. And they respond because you have acknowledged their presence, their personhood, their ability to choose. This is exactly how you must relate to money. But you have never done this. You have treated money like a distant concept, like a force of nature that operates independently of your will. You say things like, "I need money," as though money is a resource that exists somewhere out there waiting to be found. You say, "Money is coming to me," as though money is a wave that will eventually crash onto your shore if you just wait long enough. But money is not coming. Money is already here. It has always been here. And it is waiting for you to turn around, look it in the face, and speak to it as the living presence that it is. Let me tell you what happened to that woman. After our conversation, she went home and did something she had never done before. She sat in her room and she spoke out loud to money as though it were a person standing in front of her. She said, "Money, I see you now. I have ignored you. I have feared you. I have treated you like an enemy or a stranger. But I understand now that you are a presence, and I am ready to relate to you correctly. I call you by your name. I command you to flow into my life in the amount of $50,000, under grace and in perfect ways. I speak to you with authority, because I now understand that you respond to those who acknowledge you." She told me later that when she spoke those words, something shifted in the room. It was not imagination. It was not wishful thinking. It was a tangible change in the atmosphere, as though something that had been asleep suddenly woke up. Within 48 hours, she received a phone call. An old debt she had forgotten about, one she had written off years ago, was being repaid. $32,000 appeared in her account. 2 weeks after that, an unexpected opportunity came through a colleague. Another $15,000. Within 1 month of speaking directly to money for the first time in her life, she had manifested more wealth than she had seen in the previous 3 years of affirmations and vision boards combined. This is not a lucky story. This is not a coincidence. This is what happens when you stop relating to money as a concept and start relating to it as a living presence. Because money, like every intelligent force in the universe, responds to those who see it clearly and address it with authority. But you cannot command what you do not acknowledge. You cannot call forth what you do not name. And you cannot force obedience from something you treat as though it does not exist. So let me ask you plainly, have you ever in your entire life spoken directly to money, not about money, not to God about money, not to the universe about money, but to money itself? Have you ever looked at the space in front of you and addressed $500,000 as though it were a person capable of hearing you and responding? If the answer is no, then you have been practicing prosperity in the dark. You have been trying to manifest wealth without ever making contact with the very thing you are trying to manifest. And that is why it has not worked. Now I must tell you something that will sound strange to your logical mind, but your soul already knows it is true. Money has a personality. Money has preferences. Money has a will of its own. And money chooses where it goes based on how it is treated. This is why some people seem to attract wealth effortlessly, while others work themselves to exhaustion and remain poor. It is not about worthiness. It is not about karma. It is not even about mindset, at least not in the way you have been taught. It is about relationship. I recall a man, a businessman, who came to me in desperation. He had built 3 companies, and all 3 had failed. Each time, he worked harder than anyone around him. Each time, he had good ideas, strong plans, clear goals. And each time, just as success seemed within reach, everything collapsed. Money would come in, and then it would disappear. Investors would commit, and then they would pull out. Opportunities would open, and then they would close without explanation. He said to me, "I am cursed. There is something blocking me. No matter what I do, money runs away from me." I said to him, "Money is not running away from you. Money is responding to the way you treat it." He looked at me, offended. "I treat money with respect," he said. "I manage it carefully. I track every dollar. I make wise decisions. And I said, you treat money like a prisoner. You grip it. You control it. You refuse to let it breathe. And so it escapes the moment it can because no living thing wants to be caged. This is one of the great secrets that almost no one understands. Money must be treated with a balance of command and freedom. You must speak to it with authority, yes. You must call it forth, direct it, tell it where to go. But once it arrives, you cannot strangle it. You cannot hoard it in fear. You cannot treat it like a slave that exists only to serve your needs. Money, like any intelligent presence, responds to those who honor its nature. And the nature of money is circulation. Think of money like water. Water must flow to stay alive. If you dam it up completely, it becomes stagnant. If you let it run wild, it floods and destroys. But if you channel it, if you guide it with wisdom, if you let it move while also directing its course, it becomes the source of all life and growth. This is how you must relate to money. You command it to come. You speak its name. You call forth the specific amount you need. But once it arrives, you bless it as it moves. You do not clutch it in terror. You do not lock it away and refuse to let it circulate. You use it, you direct it, and you trust that as it flows from you, it returns multiplied. I taught this man a practice that changed everything. I told him, every time money comes to you, greet it by name. Say, welcome abundance. I see you. I receive you with gratitude, and I direct you with wisdom. And every time money leaves you, whether you are paying a bill, making an investment, or giving to another, speak to it again. Say, I release you with blessing, knowing you return to me multiplied, under grace, and in perfect ways. He thought this was foolish. He thought it was unnecessary. But he was desperate enough to try. Within 3 months, his entire financial reality shifted. A new business opportunity appeared, one he had not been looking for. Investors came without him having to pitch. Contracts materialized that he had not pursued. And this time, the money stayed. This time, it grew. Because he was no longer treating money like a thing to be controlled. He was treating it like a living presence to be honored. And money, feeling honored, chose to remain with him and multiply. This is what most people do not understand. Money goes where it is welcomed and stays where it is respected. If you treat money like an enemy, it will fight you. If you treat money like a servant, it will serve you reluctantly and leave at the first opportunity. But if you treat money like an intelligent partner, if you speak to it with both authority and reverence, if you command it and also honor it, then it will work with you. It will respond to you. It will obey you, not because you have manipulated it, but because you have entered into right relationship with it. Let me be very clear about what I am saying. I am not telling you to worship money. I am not telling you to make money your God. I am telling you to recognize that money is a living spiritual force that operates according to law. And that law requires you to acknowledge its presence and address it correctly. Just as you would not ignore a person standing in front of you and then wonder why they do not help you, you cannot ignore money and then wonder why it does not come to you. So here is the first practice I want you to begin immediately. Tonight, before you sleep, I want you to sit in a quiet place, and I want you to speak out loud to money as though it were standing in front of you. You do not need to see it with your physical eyes. You do not need to visualize it or imagine what it looks like. You simply need to acknowledge that it is there, listening, and you say these words, or words like them in your own voice. Money, I acknowledge you. I see you now as a living presence. I have ignored you and I apologize. I have feared you and I release that fear. I now call you to me by name. I command $500,000 to flow into my life under grace and in perfect ways. I speak with authority because I understand that you respond to those who see you clearly. Come now, obey me. Flow to me. I am ready to receive you and honor you. When you speak these words, you are not wishing. You are not hoping. You are not asking the universe to maybe send you money if it feels like it. You are speaking directly to the presence of wealth itself, and you are commanding it to respond. This is not arrogance. This is not entitlement. This is spiritual law. And those who practice it correctly see results that those who practice vague affirmations and wishful thinking never experience. Now we go deeper, because money does not have just one name. Money has 3 names, and each name unlocks a different aspect of its power. The masses know only one name, and even that one they speak incorrectly. But those who understand the full nature of wealth, those who command large sums effortlessly, they know all 3 names, and they use them strategically depending on what they need money to do. The first name of money is supply. This is the name most people use, though they do not realize they are using it. When you say, "I need money for rent," or "I need money for food," you are calling on money as supply. Supply is the aspect of money that meets immediate needs. It is practical, it is functional, it is the daily bread. There is nothing wrong with calling money by this name. But if this is the only name you know, you will only ever experience money as something that covers your needs and nothing more. You will live paycheck to paycheck, always having just enough, never overflowing. The second name of money is abundance. This is the name the prosperity teachers love to use, though again, most of them use it incorrectly. When you affirm, "I am abundant," or "abundance flows to me," you are attempting to call money by its second name. Abundance is the aspect of money that goes beyond need and enters into surplus. It is money that multiplies. It is money that grows. It is money that creates wealth, not just survival. But here is what you must understand. You cannot call money abundance if you are still relating to it as supply. You cannot speak to it as overflow while you are gripping it in fear of scarcity. The name abundance only works when you have mastered the first name, when your needs are already met and you are ready to expand beyond survival into true prosperity. But there is a third name, and this is the name that almost no one knows. This is the name that unlocks the 500,000, the million, the 10 million. This is the name that commands large sums, that opens doors that were previously invisible, that shifts your financial reality so completely that you barely recognize your own life 6 months later. The third name of money is obedience. Yes, you heard me correctly. The third name of money is obedience. And when you speak this name, when you call money by this name, you are no longer asking. You are no longer hoping. You are commanding. You are saying, "Money, you will obey me. You will come when I call. You will flow where I direct. You will serve my purpose, under grace and in perfect ways, because I speak with the authority of one who understands your true nature." I recall a student who had been struggling for years to break through a financial ceiling. She could manifest 10,000, 20,000, even 50,000. But every time she tried to call in larger amounts, nothing happened. She would affirm, she would visualize, she would do all the techniques, and the money would not come. When she came to me, frustrated and confused, I asked her, "What name are you using when you speak to money?" She said, "I call in abundance. I affirm abundance. I visualize abundance." And I said, "That is why you are stuck. Abundance will only take you so far. To call in 500,000, to call in 1,000,000, you must use the third name. You must command obedience." She was hesitant. She said, "Is that not arrogant? Is that not treating money with disrespect?" And I said, "No, it is treating money with the respect it actually desires. Money wants to be directed. Money wants to serve a purpose. Money wants to flow where there is clear command. When you beg money, when you hope for money, when you affirm vaguely that abundance is coming someday, you are not respecting money. You are treating it like a force of nature that has no will, no intelligence, no ability to respond to your authority. But when you command obedience, when you speak to money as a presence that can and will respond to your decree, you are honoring its true nature, and it responds accordingly. I taught her a specific practice. Every morning for 30 days, she was to sit in silence and speak these words out loud. "Money, I call you by your third name. I call you obedience. I command you to flow to me in the amount of $500,000. I do not beg. I do not hope. I decree. You will obey me because I speak with the authority of divine law, under grace and in perfect ways. You come now. You flow now. You obey now." And so it is. For the first 2 weeks, nothing happened. She told me she felt foolish speaking to an empty room. She felt like she was talking to herself. But I told her, "You are not talking to yourself. You are talking to a presence that is listening even when you cannot see it. Continue. Speak with authority. Do not waver." She obeyed. And in the 3rd week, something shifted. She received a phone call from a former business partner, someone she had not spoken to in 5 years. An opportunity, an investment, a doorway she had never expected. Within 45 days of beginning this practice, she had called in $480,000. Not $500,000 exactly, but so close that she knew beyond any doubt that her words had been heard and obeyed. This is the power of the third name. But you must understand something critical. You cannot use the third name from a place of desperation. You cannot command obedience while you are begging in your heart. Money knows the difference between true authority and false bravado. If you speak the word obedience, but inside you are still afraid, still doubting, still hoping it works instead of knowing it works, money will not respond. The third name only answers to those who have done the inner work, who have shifted from beggar consciousness to ruler consciousness, who speak with the quiet certainty of someone who knows their own power. So how do you develop this authority? How do you move from hoping to commanding? You practice. You start with the first name. You speak to money as supply, and you prove to yourself that it responds. You call in small amounts. You speak to $100, to $500, to $2,000. You say, supply, I call you now. I need this specific amount for this specific purpose. Come to me by this specific date. I speak with authority, and I expect obedience. And you watch what happens. You watch how money begins to respond when you address it directly, instead of praying to the universe about it. Once you have proven to yourself that money hears you and responds to you at the level of supply, you move to the second name. You begin speaking to abundance. You say, abundance, I call you now. I am ready to move beyond mere survival. I am ready for surplus, for overflow, for wealth that multiplies. I command you to flow to me, not just to meet my needs, but to exceed them, to create margin, to build prosperity. Come now, I speak with authority. And again, you watch. You watch how your financial reality begins to expand when you shift from calling supply to calling abundance. And then, when you have mastered the first two names, when you have proven to yourself beyond any doubt that money is a living presence that responds to your voice, then you are ready for the third name. Then you speak obedience, and you do so with the full weight of someone who knows they have the right and the power to command. Not from ego, not from entitlement, but from alignment with spiritual law. Let me give you the exact words I want you to practice. Tonight, after you have read this, I want you to sit in a quiet place, and I want you to speak out loud, with authority, with certainty, with no wavering in your voice. You say, money, I call you by your three names: supply, abundance, obedience. I see you clearly now. I understand your nature. I speak to you as one who has authority in the spiritual realm. I command you to come to me in the specific amount of $500,000. Not someday, not when the universe decides I am ready. Now, I decree this, I declare this. Under grace, in perfect ways, with harm to none, you flow to me now. You obey me now, because I speak with the voice of one who knows you and commands you. And so it is. When you speak these words, do not speak them as a wish. Do not speak them as a hope. Speak them as a decree. Speak them as though you are a king issuing a royal command, knowing that the order will be carried out. Because that is exactly what you are doing. You are issuing a spiritual command, and the universe has no choice but to respond when the command is spoken with true authority. But now I must warn you about the one mistake that will destroy everything I have just taught you. Because there is a way to speak to money that cancels out even the most powerful command. There is a way to relate to money that repels it, no matter how many times you call its name. And most people make this mistake every single day without realizing they are sabotaging their own prosperity. The mistake is this: speaking to money with your mouth while contradicting it with your actions. You cannot command $500,000 to flow to you and then turn around and treat the $10 in your wallet like it is worthless. You cannot decree abundance and then complain about the bill you have to pay. You cannot call money obedience and then hoard it in fear the moment it arrives. Money watches everything you do. Money listens to everything you say. And money responds not to your words alone, but to the totality of your relationship with it. I recall a man who came to me, angry and bitter. He said, I have been affirming wealth for 2 years. I have been commanding money just like you teach, and nothing has changed. I am still broke. I am still struggling. This does not work. I asked him to show me his wallet. He pulled it out, and inside were crumpled bills, receipts shoved in carelessly, coins loose and scattered. I said, "This is why your commands are not working. You speak to money with respect in your meditation, but you treat it with contempt in your daily life. Money sees this. Money knows you do not truly honor it, and so it does not obey you." He was offended. He said, "It is just a wallet. It does not matter how I organize it." And I said, "Everything matters. Every single interaction you have with money is a prayer. Every time you handle money carelessly, you are speaking to it. You are saying, 'You are not important. You are not valuable. I do not respect you.' And money hears that message louder than any affirmation you could ever speak." I gave him a simple practice. I told him to go home, clean out his wallet, organize his bills neatly, remove everything that did not belong there. I told him that every time he received money, no matter how small the amount, he should handle it with reverence. He should smooth out the bills, arrange them properly, and speak a quiet blessing over them. "Thank you for coming. I honor you. I receive you with gratitude. I know you are the beginning of greater abundance." And every time he spent money, he should bless it again as it left his hands. "I release you with joy, knowing you return to me multiplied." He thought this was ridiculous. He thought it was superstitious, but he was desperate enough to try. Within 1 week, he called me, shocked. A client he had been chasing for months suddenly agreed to a contract. $3,000. 2 weeks later, an unexpected tax refund. $1,800. Within a month, he had received more money than he had manifested in the previous year of affirmations. And the only thing that changed was how he treated the money he already had. This is a law that most people do not understand. You cannot attract what you do not honor. You cannot command what you do not respect. If you treat money carelessly when you have a little, money will never trust you with a lot. But if you treat $10 like it is 10,000, if you honor $100 like it is 100,000, if you bless and care for every single dollar that passes through your hands, then money knows you are ready for more. Money knows you will not waste it, will not disrespect it, will not treat it with contempt. And so it flows to you in greater and greater amounts. So here is the second practice I want you to begin immediately. I want you to examine your current relationship with money in the physical realm. How do you treat your wallet? How do you treat your purse? How do you handle cash when you receive it? Do you shove it carelessly into your pocket? Do you crumple it up and forget about it? Or do you receive it with reverence, handle it with care, and honor it as a sacred presence that has chosen to flow through your hands? If you have been careless, if you have been disrespectful, that ends today. From this moment forward, every single interaction you have with money is going to be conscious. Every time you receive money, you will pause, you will acknowledge it, you will speak a blessing over it. Thank you for coming to me. I receive you with honor. I know you are the seed of greater abundance. And every time you release money, whether you are paying a bill, buying something you need, or giving to another, you will bless it again. I release you with joy, knowing you return to me multiplied, under grace and in perfect ways. This is not a ritual. This is not a superstition. This is communication. You are speaking to money every time you touch it, whether you realize it or not. And from now on, you are going to speak to it consciously, with intention, with honor, because money responds to honor. Money stays with those who treat it well, and money multiplies in the hands of those who understand that every dollar is a living representative of the larger sum they are calling in. There is another aspect of this that I must address. Many people sabotage their manifestation by speaking poorly about money when they think money is not listening. They complain about bills. They resent taxes. They speak with bitterness about the cost of things. They say things like, "Money is so hard to come by," or "I can never get ahead," or "The rich get richer and the poor get poorer." Every time you speak these words, you are decreeing your own poverty. Every time you complain about money, you are commanding it to stay away from you. Because money, like every intelligent presence, does not go where it is resented. Imagine if you had a friend who constantly complained about you. Every time they saw you, they talked about how difficult you were, how much trouble you caused them, how they wished they did not have to deal with you. Would you want to spend time with that person? Would you help them willingly? Of course not. You would avoid them. You would minimize your interactions with them. You would only show up when absolutely necessary, and you would leave as quickly as possible. This is exactly what money does when you complain about it. But now imagine a different friend, someone who speaks well of you, someone who appreciates you, someone who honors your presence and acknowledges the value you bring to their life. You would want to be around that person. You would help them willingly. You would show up for them again and again because you know they value you. This is exactly what money does when you honor it. So from this moment forward, you never speak poorly about money again. You never complain about bills. You never resent the cost of things. Instead, every time you pay for something, you reframe it as an opportunity to bless money and send it out with love. You say, "I am so grateful I have money to pay this bill. I am so grateful money flows through me. I bless this payment, and I know it returns to me multiplied." When you see something expensive, instead of saying, "I cannot afford that," you say, "Money is coming to me now to cover all my desires. I call in the abundance I need for everything I want." These may seem like small shifts in language, but language is everything. Your words are decrees. Your words are commands. And money is always listening. When you shift your language, when you stop speaking poverty and start speaking prosperity, when you stop complaining about money and start blessing it, you shift your entire relationship with wealth. And money, feeling honored and appreciated, begins to flow to you in ways you never thought possible. Now we come to the practice itself, the exact technique that will allow you to speak to $500,000 as a person and command it to flow into your life. This is not theory. This is not philosophy. This is the practical application of everything I have taught you. And if you follow this precisely, if you practice this with consistency and unwavering faith, you will see results that will shatter every limitation you have ever accepted about money. The technique has 5 steps. Each step is essential. You cannot skip any of them. You cannot modify them to make them more comfortable or more aligned with what you already believe. This is ancient spiritual law, and it works exactly as designed. Your job is not to understand why it works. Your job is to practice it and allow it to prove itself to you. Step 1. You must create a sacred space for this practice. This does not mean you need candles or rituals or elaborate ceremonies. It simply means you need a quiet place where you will not be interrupted, where you can speak out loud without distraction, where you can be fully present. Money will not respond to half-hearted attempts. Money will not obey commands spoken in the midst of chaos and distraction. You must give this practice your full attention, your complete focus, your undivided presence. Set aside 15 minutes. Turn off your phone. Close the door. Sit in a chair or stand, whichever feels more powerful to you. And prepare yourself to speak with authority. Step 2. You must visualize money as a person standing in front of you. Close your eyes if it helps, but this is not required. What matters is that you see in your mind's eye a presence, a being, an intelligence that represents the sum you are calling in. Some people see money as a figure of light. Others see it as a well-dressed person, elegant and poised. Others see it as a wise elder or a powerful king. There is no right or wrong way to visualize this. What matters is that you are not speaking to empty air. You are speaking to a presence that you acknowledge as real, as listening, as capable of responding to your command. Step 3. You must speak the 3 names of money and call it forth. This is where most people fail because they speak timidly. They speak with hope instead of authority. They speak as beggars instead of rulers. But you cannot command obedience from a place of weakness. You must speak with the full weight of someone who knows they have the right and the power to decree. You open your mouth and you say these words with strength, with clarity, with absolute conviction. Money, I call you by your 3 names. Supply, abundance, obedience, I see you standing before me. I acknowledge your presence, I honor your nature, and I command you now to flow into my life in the specific amount of $500,000. Not as a wish, not as a request, but as a decree issued by one who understands spiritual law and speaks with divine authority. Under grace, in perfect ways, with harm to none, you come to me now. You flow to me now. You obey me now. I speak this with the certainty of one who knows you hear me and will respond. And so it is. When you speak these words, do not rush. Do not mumble. Do not speak them like you are reading a script. Speak them like you mean them. Speak them like you are issuing a royal command that must be obeyed. Speak them with the tone of someone who has zero doubt that what they are saying will manifest. Because doubt is the only thing that can cancel a spiritual command. Fear is the only thing that can block the flow. If you speak with even a trace of, "I hope this works," money will not respond. But if you speak with the full certainty of, "This is law, and law must be obeyed," money has no choice but to come. Step 4. You must speak directly to the money as though you are having a conversation with a person. This is where the personification becomes fully activated. After you have called money by its 3 names and issued your command, you continue speaking to it. You say things like, "Money, I know you have been waiting for me to see you clearly. I know you have been listening all this time, waiting for me to stop praying to the universe and start speaking directly to you. I apologize for ignoring you. I apologize for treating you like an object instead of a presence. But I see you now. I understand you now. And I am ready to work with you, to honor you, to direct you with wisdom. I am calling you in the amount of $500,000 because I have a purpose for you. I will use you to create security, to build wealth, to serve others, to expand my capacity, to give and to grow. You will not be wasted in my hands. You will be honored. You will circulate. You will multiply. And because I honor you, you will choose to stay with me and bring more of yourself to me. I speak this with authority. I decree this with power. Come now, obey now, flow now. You speak to money like this for as long as it takes until you feel a shift in the atmosphere. Some people feel it in 30 seconds. Others need 5 minutes. But you will know when it happens. You will feel a change in the energy of the room. You will feel a presence responding. You will feel something invisible becoming tangible. That is money waking up to your voice. That is money acknowledging your command. That is the moment when spiritual law begins to move on your behalf. Step 5. You close the practice with gratitude and release. You do not beg. You do not plead. You do not say, "Please, I really need this." You simply say, "Thank you for hearing me. Thank you for obeying me. I release this command into the invisible realm, knowing it is already done. I speak it, I decree it, I expect it, and I receive it, under grace and in perfect ways." And so it is. Then you open your eyes, you stand up, and you go about your day as though the $500,000 is already on its way. Because it is. Now, here is what will happen after you do this practice. For the first few days, nothing may appear to change in your outer circumstances. You may look at your bank account and see the same numbers. You may check your mail and find nothing. And this is where most people quit. They do the practice once or twice, see no immediate result, and decide it does not work. But money does not always come in the way you expect or in the time frame you demand. Money comes under grace and in perfect ways, which means it comes through the path of least resistance, through the door that is already open, through the person or opportunity that is already aligned. I recall a woman who practiced this technique faithfully for 3 weeks. Every day, she spoke to $500,000 as a person. She called it by its 3 names. She commanded it with authority. She honored it with reverence. And for 3 weeks, nothing happened. She was tempted to give up. She was tempted to say it was all foolishness. But something inside her told her to continue. On the 22nd day, she received a phone call from a lawyer. A distant relative she barely knew had passed away and left her an inheritance, $475,000. Not exactly $500,000, but so close that she knew beyond any doubt her command had been heard and obeyed. But here is the part that most people miss. The money did not appear out of thin air. The money came through a channel that was already there. The relative had written the will years before. The inheritance was already set in motion long before she began her practice. But by speaking to money directly, by commanding it to come, by treating it as a living presence that could respond to her voice, she activated the invisible mechanism that brought that money into her awareness and into her hands. The money was always coming, but it only came when she called it by name and commanded it to obey. This is how spiritual law works. You do not create money out of nothing. You align yourself with the flow of money that is already moving through the universe, and you direct it to flow toward you. You do not beg it. You do not hope for it. You command it. And when you command it with the authority of one who understands its nature and speaks its names correctly, it has no choice but to respond. So here is what I want you to do starting today. For the next 30 days, you will practice this technique every single morning. You will wake up, you will create your sacred space, you will visualize money as a person standing before you, and you will speak to it with authority. You will call it by its 3 names. You will command $500,000 to flow into your life. You will speak to it as though you are having a conversation with someone you know and trust. And you will close with gratitude and release, knowing that your command has been heard and will be obeyed. Do not skip a single day. Do not do it half-heartedly. Do not speak the words without believing them. This practice only works when it is done with full commitment, full faith, full conviction. But if you do it correctly, if you practice it faithfully, if you speak with the authority that I have taught you, then I promise you this. Within 30 days, you will see movement. You will see signs. You will see money beginning to respond to your voice in ways you have never experienced before. And within 90 days, if you continue, you will see sums of money entering your life that you could not have imagined when you started. Let me tell you one final story before we close. This is the story of a man who came to me broken, defeated, and on the edge of giving up entirely. He was 57 years old. He had worked his entire life. He had tried every business idea, every investment strategy, every manifestation technique, and he had failed again and again. By the time he found me, he had $1,200 to his name, a mountain of debt, and a wife who was ready to leave him because she could no longer watch him destroy himself with false hope. He said to me, "I have tried everything. I have prayed. I have affirmed. I have visualized. I have worked harder than anyone I know, and nothing works. I am cursed. There is something blocking me. I will die poor and broken, and there is nothing I can do about it." I looked at him and I said, "You are not cursed. You are simply ignorant. You do not know how to speak to money. You have been praying to God about money, visualizing money in your mind, affirming abundance to yourself, but you have never once looked money in the face and commanded it to obey you. And that is why you are poor." He was offended at first. He thought I was mocking him, but I told him, "I am offering you the one thing you have never tried. I am offering you the practice that has transformed thousands of lives, including my own. But you must be willing to do it exactly as I teach it. No modifications, no excuses, no half measures. You must commit to 30 days of speaking to money as a person, commanding it with authority, honoring it with reverence. If you do this, your life will change. If you refuse, you will stay exactly where you are." He had nothing left to lose, so he agreed. Every morning for 30 days, he woke up at 5 in the morning, went to a quiet room, and spoke out loud to money. He called it by its 3 names. He commanded $250,000 to flow into his life. He spoke to it as though it were a person standing in front of him, listening to every word. At first, he felt ridiculous. He felt like he was talking to himself, but he had promised to do it for 30 days, and he kept his word. On day 8, he received a phone call from a former client, someone he had not heard from in 4 years. The client had a project and wanted to hire him. $7,000. It was not $250,000, but it was more money than he had seen in months. He took it as a sign and continued the practice. On day 16, another opportunity appeared. A referral from a friend led to a contract, $15,000. On day 23, an old investment he had written off as a loss years before was suddenly liquidated. $28,000 returned to him out of nowhere. By the end of 30 days, he had received $52,000. Still not the full amount he had commanded, but more money than he had manifested in the previous 2 years combined. And more importantly, something had shifted inside him. He no longer felt like a victim. He no longer felt cursed. He felt, for the first time in his life, like someone who had power over his financial reality. So he continued the practice. Every morning, he spoke to money. He commanded it. He honored it. He treated it as a living presence. By day 60, he had received $112,000. By day 90, He had reached $187,000. And by the end of 6 months, the full $250,000 had come. Not in one lump sum, not in the way he expected, but through a series of opportunities, contracts, unexpected returns, and synchronistic events that could not be explained by logic or chance. The money came because he had called it. The money obeyed because he had commanded it. But the story does not end there. Because once he reached $250,000, he did not stop. He increased his command. He began speaking to $500,000, then $1 million. And within 2 years of beginning this practice, he had gone from $1,200 and a mountain of debt to over $1.3 million in liquid assets, a thriving business, and a completely transformed life. His wife, who had been ready to leave, stayed. His health improved, his confidence returned. And he became one of the most vocal advocates of this practice, teaching others what I had taught him. I tell you this story not to promise you that you will become a millionaire in 2 years. I tell you this story to show you what is possible when you shift from begging to commanding, when you stop treating money as an object and start treating it as a presence, when you speak with authority instead of hope. This man was 57 years old when he learned this practice. He had wasted decades doing it wrong, but the moment he learned to do it right, everything changed. And if it can work for him, it can work for you. So now you have the knowledge, you have the practice, you have the technique. The only question that remains is this: will you do it? Will you commit to 30 days of speaking to money as a person and commanding it with authority? Or will you watch this video, feel inspired for a moment, and then go back to your old patterns of hoping and wishing and affirming vaguely that someday abundance will come? The choice is yours, but I will tell you this: if you do nothing, nothing will change. If you continue relating to money the way you have always related to it, you will continue getting the results you have always gotten. But if you take this practice seriously, if you speak to $500,000 every single morning for the next 30 days, if you command it with authority and honor it with reverence, your financial reality will shift in ways you cannot yet imagine. So here is what I want you to do right now. I want you to make a declaration. I want you to speak it out loud, even if you are alone, even if it feels strange. I want you to say these words as a covenant, as a commitment to yourself and to the invisible presence of money that is listening to you right now. Say this: I commit to speaking to money as a living presence every single day for the next 30 days. I will call it by its 3 names. I will command $500,000 to flow into my life. I will honor it, respect it, and treat it with reverence. I speak this with authority. I decree this with power. And I expect it to manifest under grace and in perfect ways. And so it is. If you just spoke those words out loud, then write them in the comments below. Write, I commit to 30 days of commanding money with authority. Let your written declaration stand as a record of this moment. Let it hold you accountable. And let it serve as a signal to the universe that you are ready, that you are serious, that you are done playing small and ready to step into the wealth that has been waiting for you all along. And if this teaching has opened your eyes, if it has shown you something you have never seen before, if it has given you hope and clarity and a path forward, then I invite you to subscribe to this channel, not as a casual viewer, but as someone who is in covenant with this wisdom. Each video here is a continuation of this teaching. Each message is a key that unlocks another door. This is not entertainment. This is transformation. And those who stay, those who commit, those who practice what is taught here, they are the ones who see their lives change in miraculous ways. The knowledge has been given. The practice has been revealed. The only thing standing between you and $500,000 is your willingness to speak its name and command its obedience. So go now. Create your sacred space. Visualize money standing before you. Call it by its 3 names. Command it with authority. And watch what happens when you finally learn to speak the language that money understands. Under grace and in perfect ways, your wealth is already on its way. You have spoken it. You have decreed it. And so it is. Money, I call you by your 3 names: supply, abundance, obedience. I command you to flow into my life in the amount of $500,000.